Hello, everyone. Charles Watts here. Welcome back to Inside Arsenal. Welcome to the start of another week, and welcome to one of those wonderful Monday mornings that we have pretty much every season now. When you wake up, you think, what happened yesterday? Yeah, we went to Spurs and we won again, 3 in a row at that place. Glorious, glorious morning it is. I hope you're all well wherever you're watching or listening to this around the world. I'm sure you are, because it is always a lovely feeling waking up after beating that lot down the road. And Arsenal are making that a pretty regular occurrence these days, aren't they? So we will talk about that in today's show in depth. We'll go over. Obviously, I did the recording yesterday from the ground after the game, doing my immediate sort of post-match reaction and ratings, but I will go over it a lot more in depth. Got loads of reaction from you guys. We'll have a proper look at what Mikel Arteta had to say. I'll go over my player ratings again, discuss the game at length, and I'm going to pay homage to, in my opinion, the best centre-back partnership in the world. I don't think it's even an opinion that it's the best centre-back partnership in the Premier League, but I think it's the best centre-back partnership in the world. £55 million. Those two costs, Saliba and Gabriel. What an absolute bargain that has proven to be. So I'm going to pay homage to them as well in this show, which is going to be a nice upbeat show, which after last week and the dejection and the injuries and the suspensions and everything that seemed to be happening to Arsenal day after day, another player dropping, was a pretty miserable week, let's face it. So we're going to start today on Monday in upbeat mood, and why not? Because of that wonderful win yesterday. Was it pretty? No. Do I care? Absolutely not. I just want to celebrate a lovely Arsenal win against the odds. I have to admit, hands up, I went into this game pretty fearful. I thought Tottenham were going to be really, really up for it. I thought, given the injuries and the players who are missing, Spurs were going to have even more about them, because they knew what a huge chance this was for them. And I just was not very confident of Arsenal going there. I said before the game, give me a point. I would just take that point and get out of there as quickly as possible. So I wasn't feeling great on the journey up there. But what was there to be worried about? Arsenal do what Arsenal do, and they win a game. They find a way to win, and that is what's so good about this team under Mikel Arteta, is they have so many ways to win. Now, if they're not playing great, they're missing players, the attack isn't quite working, they can still win these sort of games. These big games away from home at them big rivals, they can still win because they've got such a fantastic defence. They can keep clean sheets, and they are a threat from so many different areas in the pitch. If it's not the wingers going to get you, if it's not Havertz going to get you, you can have a set piece, and there's just no better team at attacking set pieces in the world, in my opinion, than Arsenal Football Club. And that's what got them over the line yesterday. Gabriel popping up with the winner. What a threat he is. No centre-back in the Premier League has scored more goals than him since he arrived at the club. It's just a fantastic thing to have, a fantastic weapon for you to have. It was a thumping header from him to give Arsenal the win. And as I said, look, it wasn't the prettiest of games. It was very, very tight. I mean, you look at the stats, Tottenham, as you would expect, sort of dominated territory and possession-wise. They had a lot of the ball. They had more shots than Arsenal, 15-7. Expected goals was around the same, and 0.7. These are the stats from cannonstats.com. Scott Willis is site. Possession, Tottenham 63%, dominated that, had a lot more passes, dominated the field tilt and territory, final third entries, but they just did very little with it. Arsenal let them, this was the game plan for Arsenal. They knew the deficiencies they had in their team. They knew that without certain players, they were going to struggle. I don't think they played as well as they wanted to. Mikel Arteta admitted after the game that they didn't do enough with the ball. Arsenal, they weren't good enough on the ball at times, and that kind of made them, I wouldn't say under pressure, but I never really felt they were under pressure. But if you see what I mean, it made the fact that Tottenham had more of the ball than Arsenal would have liked. So I don't think that was absolutely the game plan. But even though they weren't that great on the ball at times, they just still had enough defensively to comfortably keep Spurs at bay. I thought after that first sort of 15 minutes when Spurs flew out the traps, had a couple of shots that Raya did well to save. After that, I just never felt like they were going to score, unless they did something magical out of nowhere, fantastic delivery into the box that just found someone and they scored, or someone pinged one in from 30 yards like Kulusevski nearly did at the end, something like that. If it wasn't that, I just didn't feel like they were going to score. I felt like Arsenal just kept them at arm's length. They saw what they got in those first 15 minutes and just thought, no, you're not going to get through us. And then they popped up with a set piece to get the crucial goal. And yeah, see, that was the story of the game. I mean, you look at what Mikel Arteta had to say after the game. Obviously, he was absolutely delighted what his players did. Said, look, I'm super happy. Obviously, we know what it means to our club, to our people, to win a London derby, and we have the power to try and make them very happy. So hopefully we have achieved that, and that makes it very special. On the performance, we had moments in the game, some good ones, some others that we had to suffer. We suffered because we had to adapt a little bit the plan because of the players that we had available. But I loved it because since the day that we started to get by, the team got hungrier and hungrier to play the game. And that's a big compliment to everyone at the club to behave in a certain way. It's a tough week that's coming up. And instead of finding any little excuses or arguments to do that, it was the opposite. Face the challenge, play with courage, acknowledge our qualities and what we have to be able to do to win the game. And we've actually done it. And they did. And I think he's spot on with what he said, that he looked at that team that he had available, what he was going to do, how Spurs were going to play, and he had to find a new way to win the game. It was about staying tight, staying compact, defending your box very, very well, keeping Tottenham at bay, and then take advantage of the strengths that you do have when you go forward. They could have won the game in open play. Didn't really do enough in the second half, I thought, to really cause Spurs too many problems from open play. Thought they had a good period in the first half when they had the Havertz shot and they had the Martinelli chance as well. But then when you've got the set piece Arsenal that they've got, then you've always got a great opportunity to win the game. And that's how it happened. I thought this was really interesting from Arteta when he was asked about how do you prepare for the week when suddenly, your players start dropping out. You hear about Odegaard's injury. Obviously Rice is suspended. Calafiori gets injured. What do you do? What was that planning like? And Mikel said, I didn't enjoy it because I just didn't sleep much in the week. I looked at Spurs for 4 or 5 days. I had a super clear plan of how to do it. I prepared everything, the sessions, the meetings, etc. And then one news, we lose a player. Another news, we lose another news, we lose another player. Another news, we lose a player. So I had to completely change it. I liked the plans for the players that we had available. So it was a great challenge. And I said it in the show yesterday, and I'm going to get onto it when I talk about Gabriel and Saliba and the defensive unit as a whole. But for so long, we've had to endure a really watching an Arsenal team that, yes, they played pretty football, but were weak. You'd go to these big games and you'd lose. I mean, Arsenal's record against the big five, the big six, whatever you wanted to call it, for so long towards the end of Wenger and, even under Emery, it just wasn't good. They couldn't go and grind these sort of games out and play the way that they do now. And it's so nice to be able to watch these games. Obviously, this upcoming weekend is going to be the ultimate test, but be able to watch the games that we've been able to watch recently and just know you've got a proper defensive unit screening the goal and doing everything that they can to keep the ball out of the net. And it's just such a nice feeling. And I felt so calm, well, as calm as I can do in a North London derby for that final 20 minutes yesterday. I was sitting there, obviously my heartbeat was going. My heart rate was going up and up as my watch gave me a warning with about 10 minutes to go because of my raised heart rate. So, yeah, clearly I was nervous, but I still felt really, really comfortable because I just didn't think they were going to score because of Gabriel, because of Saliba, because of Timber. Those players, David Raya, he was just sensational again, David Raya. It's just fantastic to see. It really is. And it just brings a nice bit of joy to my heart, I have to say, seeing an Arsenal team defend the way they do now. Right, let's talk about Gabriel and Saliba. Now, obviously, Saliba gets lots and lots of flowers, always does, because he's a fantastic defender, arguably the best centre-back in the world, in my opinion. But Gabriel is a very close second behind him. He often goes under the radar because Saliba gets a lot of the credit. But Big Gabby's performance yesterday, fantastic at both ends, the blocks, throwing himself in front of the ball, defending at all costs, and then going up the other end of the pitch, scoring that header the way he does. He's just absolutely wonderful performance. And on Gabriel, Mikel said, I think the way he's evolved, first of all, as a person, and then on his role at the club, the team has been phenomenal. It's great to watch. And this is why we are here. This is one of my passions, to give players the environment, to give players the support, the education, the coaching, to grow and prepare them for life and prepare them to get to levels they probably don't think before. Gabby is certainly one of the best examples of that. Why? Because he loves what you do. He applies himself incredibly well when he wants it. And when that happens, normally good things happen to these kind of people. And it's great to see him getting the credit he's getting today, Gabriel, because he's just been such a fantastic signing for Arsenal. Like I said, the pair of them, Saliba, Gabriel, about £55 million. You just don't get more of a bargain than that in modern day football. The best centre-back partnership, definitely in the Premier League, if not the world. And Gabriel just gives you so much. And I thought he was fantastic yesterday, Gabriel, at both ends of the pitch. Once again, we know that Arsenal have started talking about extending his contract, and I think that's an absolute essential thing for them to get over the line. Now we'll wait and see how that progresses over the next few months as those talks continue and start to increase. But he was the first player way back when, I can't even remember when it was, he signed his new deal. It must have been about 2 years ago now. But he was the first of the player that started the renewal process. And now they've basically gone through all of the renewals and it's back to the start again. And Gabriel is at the front of the queue and he deserves it, because since then he's seen Saliba get a big new contract. Saliba's wages will be up here, and I imagine Gabriel's will be down here somewhere at the moment. And you're going to have to bring those in line, and Gabriel and his people will be pointing that out to Arsenal. And absolutely they should be as well, because he deserves to get paid what he's worth. And that's what this new contract will be about, when it gets agreed. And I hope it gets agreed pretty quickly, because he absolutely deserves it. Gabriel was fantastic yesterday, match winner yet again. And another man of the match performance against Spurs, which you put in man of the match performances against Spurs sort of season after season, you're always going to be a very, very popular figure at Arsenal. And when I talk about the defensive unit, I mean, look at this away record that Arsenal now have in 2024 in the Premier League. Played 11, won 10, drew 1, and that was at Manchester City. Defeats, none. Goals, 31 scored. Conceded 3. Clean sheets, 9 out of 11. And they have not been behind for a single minute. Now, obviously, 11 times 90 is 990 minutes, but there's been a lot more minutes than that because of extra time and stuff. So it's well over 1,000 minutes of away football in the Premier League, and Arsenal have not been behind once. That is a remarkable statistic, and is just the defence, not just the defence, the midfield as well. Declan Rice, Thomas Partey, Jorginho at times, they all just deserve so much credit. Kai Havertz, who was unbelievable yesterday defensively, I thought Kai Havertz once again. But obviously Saliba and Gabriel are absolutely central to that record because of the way they defend that penalty area. David Raya, again, superb. I mean, that's unbelievable numbers. Again, you go back to the Arsenal teams we've had to watch over the years, certainly since the glory days of Wenger and the Invincibles and the George Graham's back four, and that sort of era where we had 10 years or so of Arsenal being defensively very, very good. Since then, it's just been a mess. So many years it's been a mess, and we've had to endure awful defence and just collapse after collapse. And then you've now got this team that can do that sort of record. Fantastic. I mean, this Sunday is going to be the ultimate test, no doubt about it. You go into the Etihad, you go into a City side, and more importantly, you're going to be facing an Erling Haaland in as good a form as he's been in since he's come to the Premier League. Now, Arsenal and Saliba and Gabriel have had some really good performance against Erling Haaland in recent matches. They've snuffed out the danger of him. They've kept him away from goal. He's barely had a sniff. Can they do that again on Sunday? Can they maintain this sort of record on Sunday at the Etihad against Man City? It's the ultimate test, and I can't wait to see how they get on in this. And, there's no doubt they will be relishing it. They won't be scared. They won't be worried about it. They will be absolutely relishing the challenge. And that's fantastic. But it wasn't just about those two yesterday. I'll go through my player ratings. Timber, fantastic. Ben White, it's just typical Ben White. Raya, superb. There were so many good performances defensively yesterday for Arsenal, and there has been over the course of this remarkable run that they have been on. Just on this one from Max here, I just wanted to answer this question, is how much are we going to need to rotate Gabriel and Saliba this season? Has the game changed when centre-backs can play 3 times a week on repeat without running out of steam? I mean, it's an interesting one because obviously you don't want to change that centre-back partnership too much, but also you don't want to run them into the ground, and Arsenal are going to have such a demanding season coming up. But the good thing is when you look at Arsenal's defensive unit, I mean, not specifically right now because they've got some injuries, obviously, but you bring Calafiori back into that team. You've got Timber there, you've got Kivior there, you've got options and you can play Timber into the middle as well. You've got options where you don't have to play Saliba and Gabriel and run them into the ground. And I think it's really, really important that you do that and that you manage their workload really, really well. They both played so many minutes last season. Saliba's been away, played at the Euros. Gabriel was away at the Copa America. It's really important to keep them as fit as you possibly can. So Arteta does have to manage it, but you've got to pick and choose your games. Obviously, you're not going to rest them now. You're not going to rest them against Manchester City. So I do think, in answer to your question, Max, that we are going to have to rotate the pair of them. But I think that the options that Arsenal have defensively in the squad that they've got in that area allows them to be able to do that without too much of a fear of, a massive drop off in form as well. I haven't even mentioned Tomiyasu when he comes back as well. You got Zinchenko, you got Tierney. There's so many options when it comes to being able to rotate the centre backs and moving players around in that area. So many of them are so versatile as well. Right, player ratings wise, this is what I've gone for from yesterday. Now I've bumped Trossard up to a 6. I gave him a 5, and I was coming home and I was thinking, that's really harsh. I don't think he did that well going forward, Trossard, yesterday, but I just don't think I couldn't give anyone a 5. I was thinking afterwards, it's like the work that they all put in to get that win, given the circumstances, given who was missing, the absolute team performance that it was. I thought, no, that's really harsh. I shouldn't have given Trossard a 5. So I've bumped him up to a 6. The rest of them I've stuck the same. So Raya, I gave an 8, White a 7, Saliba 8. I don't know why I put Gabriel as an 8 there. Gabriel was a 9. I just accidentally put him down as an 8. So scrap that. He was definitely a 9. Could even have been a 10. Gabriel, given his performance. Timber 8, Saka 7, Partey 7, Jorginho 7, Martinelli 7. So 7s across the board in midfield. Then I gave Havertz an 8, who I thought was just brilliant yesterday. Havertz and Trossard I've given up to a 6. Jorginho and Partey is interesting. I was talking about other journalists after the game in the press room yesterday. I was asking about their ratings, and it's interesting how people see games so differently. Like we were disagreeing, a few of us, on what we gave our players. I thought Jorginho played well, and I've seen people say, no, he struggled, but I thought he played really well. There was a 5-minute period at the start of the second half where I was like, this is a bit concerning for Jorginho. When he got robbed of possession by Solanke, didn't he? Then he got booked soon after that, and I was like, his legs are struggling here. And he was cramping in the second half. But I thought he just had a new lease of life for the last sort of 20 minutes, and he really put himself about. He was popping up in more advanced positions, and I really like what Thomas Partey did as well in the second half when he just dropped deep. I think he won 7 out of 7 duels yesterday, Thomas Partey. I think he gave the ball away twice, but one of those, he sort of passed it out of play, I remember, and there was another one where I think it was a poor pass. It was intercepted, something like that. But other than that, I thought he had a really good game, Partey, especially in the second half, where it looked like they just decided between them, Jorginho and Partey. It was like, okay, Jorginho's going to do more of the running, and Partey is just going to sit and protect that back four. And I thought he did it really, really well. But I've seen other people say he wasn't very good. I've seen people say Jorginho wasn't good. I've seen people say Martinelli wasn't very good. But I thought Martinelli had a good game yesterday. I thought he gave Porro loads of problems. He beat him a lot of times defensively. I thought he was excellent. He did his job really, really well. I thought it was a good performance from Martinelli. So, yeah, I gave those guys all 7s. Like I said, Timber, I thought was his best performance in Arsenal shirt. Gabriel, 9. Saliba, 8. White, 7. Raya, 8. And, bumped Trossard up to a 6. I also gave Arteta a 7 out of 10. I didn't really think about that rating, to be honest. It was kind of off the top of my head just at the end of the video I was doing yesterday. And I've seen lots of you in the comments saying, how has he only got a 7? And I agree, it was stupid. It should have been more. I mean, he's the first manager in Premier League, first Arsenal manager in Premier League history to win 3 in a row at Spurs. As he said in his quotes himself, his entire game plan had to be ripped up because of the injuries in the week leading up to the match. And he still put the team out, drilled them well enough to go there and get a performance the way they did. So yeah, obviously he shouldn't have got 7. It was a silly rating for me. So I'll definitely put him up to at least an 8 for mastermind in yet another win at Spurs. So those are running through my ratings from yesterday. Just on Saka, hopefully not too bad. Yes, he limped off in the game towards the end there. Also replaced by Ethan Nwaneri. Got big games coming up on Thursday at Atlanta and then City at the weekend. The hope is that he'll be fine. I think the initial sort of thought process is it was more of cramp than anything else. So hopefully, fingers crossed, Bukayo Saka will be fine. I will talk about Saka, I think, in tomorrow's show because I think it's an interesting, just the whole thing on Thursday night ahead of the Etihad game in terms of what Arsenal do. How much can you change your team in your first Champions League game? But I do wonder if this is a good game to potentially rest Saka on Thursday night. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit more in the show tomorrow. And if you want to get involved in that debate, get into the comments and let me know your thoughts. Would you rest Saka on Thursday night against Atalanta to make sure he is fine for the Manchester City game on Sunday? Let me know your thoughts on that in the comments below. All right, quickly before we wrap this one up today, just going to go through some of your reactions to what you saw yesterday. Casper's been in touch. He says, I thought Martinelli, considering the criticism and lately, had a good game. Should have scored his chance or squared it to Saka, of course, but it didn't diminish his overall game. just says something about his confidence. He's obviously better suited to higher backlines, and I feel he should be given more chances against higher backlines because I'm almost convinced his finishing is a confidence issue, which can be fixed once he gets enough chances to score. I'd start him against Atalanta and City, use Trossard off the bench. Yeah, I thought he played well. Casper, I agree. I thought he gave Porro loads of problems yesterday. McCormick AFC says, maybe this is recency bias, but I don't think Arsenal have had a better defensive unit than this one. Every player from back to front puts in the hard yards for the clean sheets and the team. I love it. Yeah, I agree. I mean, obviously the famous back four, George Graham's era, will have something to say about that. And that was an unbelievable season. I remember the 1991 season when we only conceded 18 goals throughout that year. It was just a remarkable defensive performance. But certainly since then, this is the best defensive unit I've ever seen at Arsenal since that period. You know, just their determination and the enjoyment that they take in keeping clean sheets and keeping the ball out of the net is just clear for all to see. And it is that unit as well. It's not just Saliba and Gabriel, who obviously are key to it, but everyone from the very front to the Havertz, you know, the way that everyone defends, Martinelli as well. You know, it's great to watch. Rob says, hi, Charles. What a result. I just love watching this team defend. Hunger, desire, resilience, just a proper defensive unit. Gabriel, man of the match, was back to his best. Blocks, tackles, nothing was getting past him, and he scored the winner. Timber and Saliba were excellent too. Saka and Martinelli weren't great going forward, but put in a real shift defensively. Havertz as well never stopped running. Fantastic work rate. I thought your rating of 7 out of 10 for Arteta was a bit low. I thought he deserved at least an 8. Got his tactics spot on with midfield, and he had available and the opposition, North London, is red. Keep up the great content. Yeah, I agree about my rating of 7 for Arteta. Definitely a little bit too low. Toulon Warrior. Well, sorry, this is from Chong. He says, all the talk about getting a centre forward seems to have a hint of criticism of Havertz, but with Odegaard and Rice out, we really got to see how important he is for Arsenal. Picking up from where he left off when he went down to 10 men against Brighton, he put in a monstrous shift again. Versatility, which is so underrated, made the lineup today possible with our depleted squad. Compared to where he was 1 year ago, it's chalk and cheese. When last year he needed the penalty to get his confidence up, now he's always single-handedly dragging over the line. What a signing. Trust the process and bring on City next year. I thought Havertz was brilliant yesterday. Just like you said, after they went down 10 men against Brighton, he was as well. Thought it was a really top-level performance from him yesterday. Lewis says, I think bringing Nwaneri on towards the end was a fantastic show of faith from Arteta. The game is in the balance at 1-0 and he trusted the youngster who has only played a few minutes in the league before he came on to help keep it tight. Could easily pick an experienced defensive player, but he trusted him to get the job done. Arteta doing one of the few things he's been criticised on, giving the youngsters game time. North London is red. Yeah, I agree. When I saw Saka go down, my initial thought was he's going to chuck Kivior here and just whack on another defender to try and see out the crosses. So I was pleasantly surprised when I saw him turn to Nwaneri. Elizabeth says, hi, Charles. Great content as always. Thank you very much. So happy for Gabriel. I think he is super deserving of this moment and praise. Thought Ethan looked good in his cameo, and I know Martinelli is getting a lot of stick right now, but was really happy with his defensive duties. I know we need more from him than just that, but hopefully he can find his form 2 years ago very soon. Big week ahead. Come on, you Gunners, indeed. Lastly here, a few more. Aurora Freak says that was a very good performance from Jorginho. You have to remind yourself he hasn't played any minutes yet this season, and then he played 90 in a North London derby. But that is solid. Yeah, I thought he was really good, Jorginho, yesterday as well, just apart from that little spell after half-time. Jelly Belly says absolutely exceptional performance from us. Players work their socks off, full of running and discipline. Thought Spurs lost their heads. Typical performance from them. North London is red. Final two, Subdued 7881 says, really like the way the team played. Got behind Timber, after the incident with Porro. Hardly a yellow card, never a red. Yeah, it was certainly everyone jumping on. I thought it was... I think a yellow card was right, probably for the whole incident as a whole, but I don't think the tackle was bad. I thought Porro was pathetic the way he rolled around pretending he was hurt. When you look on the replay, clearly didn't hurt him at all. But it is what it is. You're going to get incidents like that in a derby. Tim says, hi, Charles. How hard is it being a journalist not being able to celebrate in the press box the likes of Gabriel goal? I did punch the air, I have to admit, but it was kind of disguised. I kept myself pretty level-headed when it did go in, but it was a instantaneous little punch of the air when it went in. How hard is it? It is tough, which is one of the big reasons why I sort of stepped away from being at every single game from when I sort of left goal and went on my own. I wanted to be able to enjoy it in the in my actual seat more and more. So it is tough. Managed to control myself away from home pretty well. I just always remember the one incident was when Nacho Monreal scored the equaliser against Man City in the FA Cup semi-final. at Wembley, and I was in the press box there in the Manchester City end. And because it was just so out of the blue, and I thought Arsenal had lost that game because they were 1-0 down, obviously. I just didn't see him getting back into the game. Then out of nowhere, Ox just whips in that brilliant cross, and then there's Nacho at the back post to volley it in. I just remember I lost it. Totally forgot where I was. Thought I was in the Arsenal end. Just properly celebrated that goal. It was the only one that I really did it in an away end, if you want to call it an away end at Wembley. Obviously celebrated the Reece Nelson goal as well, but that was impossible not to. And that's it from me. It's been where am I? 25 minutes. God, this one's dragged on a little bit. Apologies for that. But look, if you can't go a little bit over your usual time limit when you've just won a North London derby, when can you do that? And it has been a nice upbeat show as well. So I hope those of you have stayed tuned for all of it, have enjoyed going over it once again. I'll be back tomorrow as we turn our attentions to the Champions League. Like I said, we're speaking a little bit about who maybe should be rested for that game and some of the decisions Mikel Arteta has got to make when it comes to his team selection, especially with that trip to the Etihad on the horizon. So until then, everyone, have a very good Monday. Enjoy the start of your week. Remind all your mates who are Spurs fans of the score. I'm sure you already have. And I'll speak to you tomorrow. Bye-bye.